This really was the main focus of a system like this, to reduce the number of days to actually complete the hiring process from 44 on average to just a few days. And this has drastically improved the overall functioning of the business. We've now found that the recruitment team members actually have more time to focus on the human aspect of the job. And in the recruitment industry, this really comes down to building more personal relationships with the candidates and placing them in the best possible element. Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Over the course of the past few weeks, I've been really involved in delivering AI solutions for recruitment companies. So companies in the recruitment industry in particular. In this video, what I want to take you guys through is a whole course of my experience so far. So the insights that I've gained into how the industry works, what kind of solutions do they really need, what kind of bottlenecks need to be addressed, and how you and your AI consulting agency can step in and address those pain points, those bottlenecks, to deliver on actual business value to these companies. Again, just to reiterate, my vision for this channel is to bring you guys into real business world applications, not just nice to haves or things you'll commonly see on other channels, but to take my personal experience going into real businesses, asking the business owners themselves, what areas would you like me to address? And then delivering on those issues with real results, just to expose you guys to real business problems and how I solve them. With all that said, I hope that you find this video very valuable. Let's get into it. All right, so like I've done in my previous videos, before I get into the solution itself, I always like to just take it back to the problem. What problems was I actually addressing in the first place? And from my time with these recruitment companies, I've identified these three core issues that they were facing. Number one, and the biggest issue of them all, was just how slow things were. And what I mean by this is just the overall speed that it takes to go through the whole hiring process from start to finish. So from taking a candidate from where they are, understanding their vision, what do they actually want for themselves, and looking for a company that actually meets that vision. From my research and actually from engaging with these companies myself, I've seen that it can take up to 44 days to hire someone. And this is vastly different to what I initially thought when I first entered in. I thought it took maybe a few days to a week or two. But from what I've seen, and I'll get into the research that I did a bit now, it can take up to 44 days on average to hire someone. And the reason for this is because of the large amounts of admin that I've come to find that these recruiters actually have to deal with. And the vast majority of this time spent on admin, is put into things such as sifting through resumes, writing job descriptions, and scheduling interviews. And this point number one, the speed at which things are done, was the main focus that we had for this entire project. If we could just reduce the speed at which things were done from 44 days on average to a few days, the vision was that we could really change the way the business operated and actually address the next 2 points, how expensive things were and how unreliable things could be at times. And when it comes to expensive, I just mean like the cost of a bad hire, both to the recruitment company and also to the company that they were hiring that person for. Again, from the research that I've done and the conversations I've had, up to $5,000 per mistake, and even more in worst cases. And then lastly, number three, unreliable. I just mean that businesses can often end up hiring underqualified candidates if the process that they followed to connect that candidate with a particular company was misaligned. Now, just to reiterate the point on speed, I want to go into a bit of the research that I've done, like I said. So as an industry average, we're talking about 44 days to appoint someone. But from what I've seen across all verticals, it can take up to 67 days for energy and defense, as you can see, 21 to 60 days or more for investment banking, 47 days for professional services, 20 days for tech and media. So that 44 is really just an average. This research that I did really drives this point home even more. There is so much opportunity at the moment in this space to take admin tasks, help automate them, and take this average number of days that it takes to appoint someone from multiple weeks to a few days. And now to move into the second point about how expensive things can be. Again, up to $5,000, so $4,700 per hiring mistake. And this can go up to even as high as 30% of the employee's overall salary. So all of this just to say that the costs are very high for each mistake that's made. And so there's a lot of incentive for these business owners for someone like you to come in and actually help them address issues like this. So with these problem areas clearly identified, let me take you guys through the process on how we actually solve this. And we developed what was called the AI talent acquisition system, which delivered on these 5 key deliverables that I'm going to take you guys briefly over now. The first one being the job description or job ad generator, which basically was where we used AI to craft tailored job posts that could actually highlight the company's values and then use that to attract top talent. Number 2, role-specific application form generator. Here we used AI to build role-specific application forms that help to filter out unqualified candidates. Number 3, AI ranks and scores candidates. And what we did here was we actually used AI to build for itself an assessment scorecard that it would then use to assess and rank candidates once they have actually applied. Number 4, AI pre-screens and generates interview guides. Simply put, we would use AI to pre-screen applicants and actually generate structured interview guides for smarter hiring. And then lastly, number 5, tailored offer letter, as well as a 30, 60, 90-day onboarding plan. What we did here was we would use AI to actually automate the offer letter generation, again, tailored to the specific candidate as well as the job role, as well as an onboarding plan to send to the candidate, also for us to follow when onboarding them, just to maintain a more seamless onboarding process. So with this overview given, I would like to take you guys into the bird's eye view, or the system overview. And what we did was we actually broke this down, this whole hiring process automation down into 3 phases. The first one being the candidate selection framework, the second one being the evaluations, and the third one being the conclusions phase. Now, how did this process start off, or how does it start off for you as the user? What we would need from the user is a talent acquisition brief, which is essentially just a document that we feed into the AI to help it form some form of a knowledge base on your company and the role that it can then use to generate all the next deliverables that I'm going to take you guys into. So what I will do now is just take you guys into that document to give you a better idea on what it consists of. All right, so within the talent acquisition brief, like I said, the point of this is really to give as much detailed and quality information as possible in this document as the user, because the AI is going to be using this to form its own knowledge on the company and the role. And that will ultimately affect the quality of the deliverables that it gives to you at a later stage. So what I will do now is just give you guys a very broad overview of the document. It starts off by asking for the basic info. So basic info about the job title and your company. Going into business and team context. So for example, the mission statement of the company, our core values, stuff like that. Number 3, the role, purpose and outcomes, the role, mission, impact areas, stuff like that. Responsibilities and KPIs, required skills and experience for the role, cultural and personality fit, past pitfalls and lessons learned, growth opportunities, the hiring process as well as stages, legal and compliance, and then finally, just how to use this worksheet as the user. So ideally, you as a company would take out some time to fill out this form as best as you can, and now you will have the document to use in the system, which I'll demonstrate a bit later. So with that document now filled out, I'm ready to just describe what happens next. So the talent acquisition brief will be taken in and used to start off the entire deliverables process, beginning with the job description. So a job ad that you can actually use to post onto various hiring platforms, for example, LinkedIn. Once it's posted, you would ideally want people to start applying, and that's exactly what the system handles next. It actually generates for you an application form specific to both your company and the role. Along with this, it also generates an ideal candidate response, which is essentially just what kind of response can you expect in the best case scenario? What is the most ideal response that you should look out for when assessing the applications that you do receive? And this would obviously just guide the hiring process, so you have something to compare what you're receiving from actual applicants to what the system identifies to be the best case scenario fit for that particular role. Now, at the end of this phase and feeding into the next phase of evaluations, what we now ask the AI to do is actually take in all this information that it's received so far and generate an assessment scorecard that I can actually start using to assess the candidates that have applied. And this leads us into point number 1 of the evaluations phase, the candidate ranking. At this stage, what you will do is you will provide, you can see their candidate applications are fed into this stage. You will provide a CSV file or XR file, whatever it might be, with all of the applications that you've received according to that application form. And you will say to the AI, from this list of 100 applicants, just highlight for me the top 10 candidates that I can then move on to the next stage of interviews for. And what it will do is it will actually use that assessment scorecard that it generated in the previous phase and assess all those candidates and rank them from top 1 to 10 in this case, making it very easy for you to process all of that application data within a few minutes. As a next step, it produces for you a guided interview worksheet, which is a worksheet tailored to the specific role that you can then use in the interview just as a guide to the important questions that you should be asking during that interview for that specific job role. And as a final deliverable for this evaluations phase, You've now received a list of the most ideal candidates that the system has provided you with. You've moved on to the interview stage. You've interviewed these candidates using the guided interview worksheets. Now you're in the stage where you're looking to actually assess each of these candidates based on the interview that you had with them. And this is where the intelligent candidate assessment comes in. What you do is you upload your interview transcript with that candidate. What it then does is it takes in that interview transcript with that particular candidate and generates for you a tailored analysis of that candidate based upon the assessment scorecard that it's previously generated, as well as the information that it's come to learn about your company and a particular role. With these evaluations now complete, you have a lot of data to now go and analyze and make the decision on who is the best candidate for the role. And this moves us into the final stage, the conclusion stage. What the AI is now able to do is take in from you who the candidate is that you would like to move forward with and actually offer the position to, and generate for you a tailored offer letter based upon the role, the candidate, and your company. As an add-on to that, it will also generate a 30, 60, and 90-day onboarding plan, just to make the onboarding process a lot more seamless for both you and for the candidate. And for those who you are choosing not to move forward with, it will generate a rejection letter as well. So now that I have given you guys the full system overview, what I would like to do is take you into the live demo of how the system works. I would just like to state that I've used Relevance AI for this particular build. With that said, we can get into it. All right, guys, so here we are now on the Relevance AI platform. And what you're seeing in front of you is the actual user interface. So to start off the whole conversation, all you would do is just type in something like, "Hey there." But the AI will now respond with just a short hello and a brief introduction as to what it is. What it's now asking for us is which stage of this AI talent acquisition system would we like to engage with. Obviously, if we're using the system for the very first time, we'll simply select stage 1 and send that through. What the AI is now going to ask us for is essentially all the information that it would need from that talent acquisition brief document. So if you have it saved on your computer, you can simply just hit onto this paperclip and upload it like that. Or you're also welcome to just go into the document itself and copy and paste all the text into this chat bar. So what I'll do now is take you guys into the pre-filled out form that I have completed just for the sake of this demo. For a bit of context, this is for an AI engineering role at some company called AST Engineering. So what I'm going to do now is simply just select everything, copy it, go back into Relevance and just paste. Once that's done, just press send. And now what's going to be happening in the background is this AI is building up its knowledge base of the role and our company based upon that data that we gave to it. As an immediate next step, it'll actually generate for us that job description or job ad, as I explained in the system overview. As you can see now, it just popped up. It's used the job description tool where it's basically generating its response, and that'll be sent to us shortly. All right, what we can see now is that the AI has actually given us the full detailed job description / job ad in the space of a minute. Just a side note as well, for any company that might be watching, we can actually tailor this response exactly according to how the company would like it to look. So if there's anything that you would like to add or omit from how it currently looks, it's extremely easy to go about doing that. So let's just say that we are happy with this. We would like to move on to the next stage. We can say, perfect, let's move on, send that through. And now what it's going to do is it's going to move on to the next stage, which is the generation of the application form, which we'll see now. And just like that, within the space of about 20 seconds, it's given us this full detailed application form. What I would also like to do quickly is just demonstrate how this chat interface allows you to make changes to these outputs if you would like. So say, for example, we wanted to change the salary expectation. Let's just make it something like, we wanted the salary expectation not to be at 120K as a very low, but we were looking for something more like 80K. So we could say, please change the lower limit of the salary to, and then we could just make it $80,000 and upper limit to whatever it is now, 160 is perfect. And send that through. And what it will now do is actually take in that input of yours and make the changes and then re-output the response to you. So this kind of interface is very, very useful, which is why we're using it at the moment with our clients. It allows the recruitment team to actually engage with each and every one of the responses until they're happy with how the output looks. And now we have our updated application form. As you can see, the lower limit has been updated to 80K like we asked for, and the upper limit has remained at 160. Perfect. With that, we are now able to move on. So we can say, again, perfect, move on. And then we're now going to the next stage. Next stage being the ideal candidate response. So what it's going to do now is actually use this application form that is generated and answer each of these questions as if it were the most ideal candidate, just so we have this as a guide going forward. And here is the full response. Each question answered in detail. Now, just for the sake of comparison, I'm actually going to take you guys to the and just show you that each question that's here has been answered. So for example, please describe your experience with LLM fine-tuning and model compression. And then a bit later down, at AST Engineering, we value innovation, etc., etc. So to answer this question over here, your experience with LLM fine-tuning, we can actually go and find that now. What is your experience with LLM fine-tuning? With a detailed response on what the ideal candidate would most likely say. And later on, at AST Engineering, this question. And here's the detailed response. Very, very helpful output that gives you a nice guide going forward. With that complete, let's move on once again. And what we can expect now is the finalization of this whole candidate selection framework phase. And it will give us the assessment scorecard that it's going to be using in the next stage when actually assessing the candidates. Just for a bit of context, we've actually trained this AI to give us a response in the assessment scorecard where it basically has various categories that it's assessing the candidate on, and then it will assign various weightings to each category, where some categories are more important to the role than others. So let's take a look. And here's the response, so let's go through it. As you guys can see, it gives us various categories, each with specific weightings, and within each of those categories, more precise scoring guidelines with points to assign, as well as descriptions on when you should assign those scores when assessing candidates. So we cover categories such as relevant experience and domain expertise, leadership and team management, interpersonal and communication skills, cultural alignment and integrity, continuous improvement and growth potential, and then a summary. Obviously, depending on the type of role as well as your company, these weightings might change, and that's something we can train the model on for your particular company as well. So with this phase now complete, we're actually able to move into the evaluations phase. And just as a reminder, this phase requires us to actually upload the CSV with all of the applicants' responses to the application form that we generated earlier. So what I'll do now is take you into a mock application form, CSV file, where I've just basically used AI to draw up a list of 10 candidates that have responded to each one of those questions, just so we have some data to actually feed into the system so I can demonstrate this stage to you guys. So I'll take you guys to that CSV file now. All right, so here is the Excel document, and I just want to explain a bit to you guys how this would look. So ideally, like I said, this would just be responses to each of the application questions that you initially put out. Each of these columns here would just be the questions that you've asked with the responses from each candidate stored in those fields. With all this information stored in this document, and once you've uploaded it, the AI can now go and analyze this doc, compare it to the original application form questions, its ideal candidate response, as well as the assessment scorecard that it generated, and then give you an accurate ranking of candidates according to how many you've asked for, which I'll get into now. So back in the chat interface, all you'll do now is just click onto the clip over here, go and find that document. In my case, it was stored over here as a CSV. Click onto upload. Once that's done, you also would like to tell the AI how many people would you like to single out. So in our case, if we have a list of 10 people that applied, and we would just like the top 5 candidates, then we would just say top 5 candidates. And then once we have that, we can send it through. Right, and here we have the response. So it's now taken those 10 candidates, and from the 10, it's singled out the top 5 for us. And according to the document that we provided, in this case, it's going to be Olivia Reynolds that sits at number 1. And this really, really helps the hiring process. This whole output took about 1 minute to be generated. So the speed at which it's able to analyze applications and rank them from best to worst is really incredible. Okay, and I'm just going to go through a brief overview of how it ranked these top 5 candidates from strongest to weakest and how it rated them as well. And with this step now complete, we can move on to the next stage, which would be to get that guided interview worksheet. So we can just type in something like perfect, please move on. Okay, and it's now given us that full detailed interview worksheet that the interview team can use in that hiring process. I'm sure you can see it's nice and practical. It's got some guidance on what questions to ask and also the rationale. So what's the reason for the question? Why would you want to ask that question in the first place? As well as with some space to rate the candidate and then give strengths, weaknesses, and the interviewer's overall impression. These questions are also broken down by category, which again just helps to add some structure to the interview. and should really help streamline things for the interview team. So now to conclude the whole evaluations phase, we are going to move into the last step, which is the intelligent candidate assessment. And if you remember, for this, we have to just provide an interview transcript for a very specific candidate. In this case, we're going to just say that we went ahead and interviewed the top candidate, which was Olivia. We now have her interview transcript stored, and we're now going to go and upload that interview transcript so that the AI can actually go and analyze that for us. So we'll go and upload, and we're just going to be hitting on send. All right, it's now busy generating the full analysis of Olivia specifically, again, based upon the interview transcript that we provided, as well as the assessment scorecard that it generated a bit earlier. Let's just go through and take a look. Okay, so it's given her an overall score and then broken it down by each category, along with the corresponding weighting for each, again, according to the assessment scorecard that it generated a bit earlier. Very, very insightful breakdowns with a score for each subcategory and an overall description as well. Strengths, weaknesses, and even a hiring recommendation for her. Very, very helpful. And this step really concludes the whole evaluation stage. At this point, you could obviously do this with as many candidates as you would like. You have a lot of data to now work with to guide the hiring decision. Let's just say at this stage that you know which candidate you would like to go ahead with. And let's just say in this case it was Olivia. So we would now move into the final stage of this AI talent acquisition system, the conclusion stage, where it will generate an offer letter for Olivia specifically, as well as an onboarding plan for her. So let's go ahead and do it. Let's move on to the offer letter specifically. And within the space of literally about 15 seconds, we have a full offer letter with onboarding plan for Olivia. So you can see it's specific to her, and it will take all the data associated with her, as well as the role and your particular company into consideration when drafting up this offer letter. Again, as well, we can train the AI on how to write this offer letter according to how your company usually does things. In this case, it's just for the sake of demonstration that it looks like this. All right, so dear Olivia, bit of an overview, the role details, the start date, compensation, key benefits, and again, all of this information, such as the start date, compensation, key benefits, this all come from the talent acquisition brief, the document that you filled in at the very beginning. Just something to append to the offer letter would be the onboarding plan. And here we can see the content as well as the structure of that onboarding plan, just to make that whole phase a lot more seamless for both parties. And that concludes that. To end things off, for the candidates who are not so successful, we could just say, please generate the rejection letter. I'll just show you guys that as well. And here is an example output on how we could structure and write the rejection letter. And yeah, this concludes the demo for the entire system. What I'll do now is take you guys back into the presentation and just go over what kind of results can you expect to receive as a business if you were to implement a system like this, based upon what we've seen ourselves with our clients. So just to tie this whole system together for you, what can you expect as a business if you were to use a system like this? And my response would be based upon the results that we've actually produced so far. The first thing that we've seen is a 60 to 70% time savings, so overall faster hiring. And as I said in the beginning, this really was the main focus of a system like this, to reduce the number of days to actually complete the hiring process from 44 on average to just a few days. And this has drastically improved the overall functioning of the business. We've now found that the recruitment team members actually have more time to focus on the human aspect of the job. And in the recruitment industry, this really comes down to building more personal relationships with the candidates and placing them in the best possible allocations. And obviously these two feed into each other. We've seen that the more time that these recruiters actually have to build the relationships with candidates, the better that they actually are able to place them, because they just are aware on their demand and the vision of the candidate a lot better. So overall, we've seen a significant improvement in the speed at which hiring can be done. Talent is both found and allocated in days and not weeks. Point number 2, lower costs, increased revenue. And this is obviously a result of point number 1, with the time savings. Because these recruiters are no longer having to spend so much time on admin tasks and instead move that towards relationship building and actual allocation, companies are able to better place candidates and also place them a lot faster because of the reduction in admin that these recruiters are having to put in. And the result of that has been a significant increase in business revenue. And finally, to end things off, scalable recruitment is possible. Because of the fact that you now have an AI system infrastructure as the foundation for your operations, you're able to drastically increase your recruitment operations. If you were to have actual people doing the job of this AI system, Understandably, if you would like to do this recruitment process at the speed at which this AI system is able to do it, you would have to hire a significantly bigger team to manage the amounts of admin in the time that this AI system can do it for you. At the same time, this AI system can do it in bulk and 24/7 whenever required. It can run multiple candidates and deliverables at the same time without needing to hire for additional people to do these roles themselves. So overall, these 3 points have drastically improved on the business and the operations of the companies that we've worked with. And it really has been so rewarding to be able to work with these recruiters themselves and see how much of a difference and how much of an impact a system like this can have on their day-to-day operations. Obviously, no one likes to do admin. People would rather be talking to other people, having face-to-face connections. And because of this, they're able to go and do that. And at the same time, they're actually rewarded for doing activities like that because, as we've seen, those are what ultimately move the business forward. Anyways, with that, I think I have chatted enough. If you are a business watching this video and you would like to partner with us to build a system or something similar for your own company, please reach out and let's chat. My email will be pinned in the first comment down below of this video. For everyone else that is watching, thank you so much for your time. I hope this video was valuable, and I will be bringing you guys more videos like this in the near future. Again, my vision for this channel is to expose you guys to real business issues and the ways in which we solve them and the results that came from those solutions as well. So if that's something that you're interested in hearing more about, please consider liking and subscribing to follow the journey, as I'll be bringing you guys a lot more content like this. Anyways, that concludes the video. Again, thanks so much for watching, and chat soon.